Slave DiBiase.
All right, y'all. All right, y'all. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, depending on whenever you digest this content. This is another live sesh of the Offenders Initiative podcast. I am your illustrious host, Slave DiBiase, aka Victor Von Slay, aka Tony Spark, aka Slay Daniel Richards. And y'all are seeing the caption. It's another 420, y'all. As a matter of fact, today is 422. You know what I'm saying? So if you miss 420, you could always swing back with 422, y'all. I don't make the rules, I just enforce them. You know what I'm saying? But how y'all feeling out there today, man? What we got going on, man? I need to know what everybody got going on in their blunt, man. You know what I'm saying? What you got in your blunt, what you got in your bowl, what you got in your bong, what you got in your joint. Tell me what you're smoking out of and tell me where you're from. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Your boy is back out this bitch. You feel me? How y'all doing today, man? All right, so we in the middle of the week. Y'all know what that means. That means all the cool TV shows that I like watching came out. That's Daredevil Born Again, The Boys, and Invincible. And as a matter of fact, Invincible had its season finale today. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, so that's what, season 4 had their finale? Yeah, we're going to get into it. You know what I'm talking about? Jessica Jones made a return in Daredevil Born Again. I say yet again for everybody that just pulled up here, Jessica Jones, the Defenders, the drunkard Jess, she's back. You know what I'm saying? She made an appearance on the latest episode of Daredevil Born Again. We're going to get into the breakdown of that. And season 5, episode 4, the newest episode of The Boys, is weird as usual. We're going to get into it. Again, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Roll and roll up. But before we get into all of that, I got a little appetizer for us, man. The trailer for Evil Dead Burn has dropped. All my horror fans out there, how y'all feeling about that, man? How y'all feeling about that? Evil Dead Burn. Not only that, but the trailer for the Clayface movie has also dropped. We're going to get into that as well. First, while I roll up, we are going to look at the Evil Dead trailer. And this will be by way of IGN, as they be trying to say. That's how they say it, IGN. Let's check this out, y'all. Hold up. Basically, gonna get you right. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Share alike. Evil Dead Burn. Light your joints up or keep rolling if you're rolling. I'll let you know when it's time to cheers. Let's get into it. Hold on, y'all. Hold on. Hold on, y'all. Hold on. Okay. Do I need to show the trailer again? I feel like we should see the trailer one more time. Let's try that one more time. Because there was something in it that was just supremely pissing me off. and I don't know if y'all saw it, but I did. Was it just me, or was old girl taking too long to get her ass up? Oh, we gonna check that. We gonna check that trailer out for Evil Dead Burn one more time. Okay, I'm gonna tell you off top. I'm gonna tell y'all off top while I'm over here with the grinder. Hold the grinder. I had to take the glasses off. I had to take shades off. Just check that whole situation out. You feel me? Um, that girl pissed me off from that trailer. And she was crawling. If you don't get your ass up, it's monsters around here. People getting thrown by entities with no shape, getting thrown around and all of that. Lady, if you don't get your ass up, stop crawling somewhere. That's what I be saying, man. Like, if you're gonna write these scary movies, man, you gotta write them a little bit more realistic. That whole trailer, that girl was pissing me off. She low crawling, and folks is around her getting picked up by invisible things and all. Man, what are you low crawling for? Get up and run. I don't know, man, but it's gonna. I definitely got to check it out. I got to check out Evil Dead Burn. I definitely checked out the last couple of Evil Deads. We in there. It is what it is. You know what I'm saying? Salute to them. But moving right along, the Clayface movie. Yeah, Clayface, the Batman villain. Yeah, he also they're also having a standalone movie for him and nobody but him. I don't know why. It's trash. Why do this to us? Nobody asked for it. Drake voice. Nobody asked for this shit. But since you're giving it to us, right? By the way, this is another Batman situation that does not have Batman in it. So let's check it out, man. This is the Clayface trailer. Let's check it out, bro. Nothing about that trailer. Absolutely nothing about that trailer made me want to see that movie again. This is another Batman movie, much like that trash ass Joker, the first one and the second one. This is another Batman movie that doesn't have fucking Batman in it. It's trash. Let's watch this trailer one more time, y'all. One more time. All right, man. Yo, DC Studios, James Gunn. I'm gonna need for y'all to stop making videos and stop making movies and stop making posters and stop making TV shows about villains and heroes that we could give a fuck about. Nobody cares about a movie about the dude that delivered a pizza to Superman. Nobody gives a fuck about the Clayface movie. Clayface don't have his own movie. He is a character in a show. He's a one-off villain, you know what I'm saying, at best, even though they kind of give him a little bit better shine in the Creatures Commandos cartoon. But we don't even know if this movie is in the DCU, if this is the same Clayface that was in the Creature Commando show. We don't know none of that. I don't know, man. Like I'm not impressed. I'm not impressed on this one, man. Not at all. This looks a little mid to me. This does not look like any Zai. And you know we smoke nothing but Zai right here. We don't do mid. So, man, I don't know about the Clayface one as much as I am of a Batman villain. A movie without Batman, I'm sorry, it's just stupid to me. It's just stupid to me. Sorry. But y'all tell me in the comments. He's not even gonna show up as like a post-credit scene or anything like that. Batman's not gonna show up like, haha, bitch, I'm on to you now, nothing like that. He's not doing none of that. But man, you know, tell me in the comments how y'all feeling about that one. You know what I'm talking about? But on to the next one. On to the next one. Yeah. Jessica Jones returns in the newest episode of Daredevil Born Again, and there's also little Easter eggs leading to the other members of the Defenders in this episode as well. And I want to get into it a little bit here. Let's see if we can get ourselves a nice little breakdown of the episode. Let me see who I can find to give us a good breakdown of the episode, man. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Hopefully you already rolled up because I'm about to put it in the air. We about to put it in the air. You know what? We can go by way of we can go by you want to go by way of heavy spoilers? I don't know. Crash, heavy spoilers it is. Yeah. Let's do heavy spoilers. Well, should we do Cosmic Wonder? You know what? I kind of like Cosmic Wonder better, man. Well, nah, you know what? Heavy spoilers. They don't get enough love. Okay. This is by way of heavy spoilers, y'all. Don't forget, I'm lit up now, rolled up, y'all. So cheers. We're gonna get into Daredevil Born Again Season 2, Episode 6. The Easter eggs, hidden details in the review, and this is by way of heavy spoilers. Let's check it out, y'all.
And welcome back to yet another heavy spoilers breakdown, y'all. This time we're going to be breaking down the amazingly hyped 6th episode of the season, an episode that featured the long-awaited showdown between Daredevil and Kingpin, as well as the Resistance and the AVTF. So let's do a quick recap of the episode and talk about all the hidden details and references that you could have missed, shall we? The episode begins with an emotionally distraught and defeated Wilson Fisk next to his lifeless wife, Vanessa, on her hospital deathbed. Vanessa's surgeon, Dr. Marati, who Wilson expected to be the best in his field, attempts to console the mayor with kind words, followed by a nice warm hug between bros. However, Dr. Marati's body was not ready to get cracked like dry spaghetti after Big Willie No Wife decides to hug him to death
Okay, so he did hug the doctor to death on this part, right? But to be fair, I might have to side with Kingpin on this one. That doctor's bedside manner was horrible. It was horrible. My man was on some, your wife is about to travel to the beautiful darkness that we're all going to. You're not gonna tell me my wife going to no motherfucking beautiful darkness, nigga. You know what I'm saying? Tell me some. It's been a sad honor to go on this lonely, sad journey with you. Hey man, like, yo, bro, can I get you a Snickers? Would have been way better than anything he said. And Kingpin knew it. He felt like dude was playing with him. And he gave him the bear hug of all bear hugs and got him up out of there.
insanely brutal fashion. Like, bro, imagine busting your ass in medical school to become a brain surgeon only to be murdered by a big sad egg. What an awful way to go. And this display of strength is just another in a long list of ways that we see Wilson Fisk display a superhuman level of strength, which kind of begs the question, is Wilson Fisk's strength completely natural, or is some part of his physiology mutated in some way to make him an enhanced being? I mean,
Okay. That is a great question right now, right? In the original Netflix series, Wilson Fisk, aka the Kingpin, he's always had incredible strength, but obviously now it's dialed up a notch and it's a little bit more comic booky since they're trying to differentiate between the way that the character was portrayed in the Netflix series versus how he's being portrayed as officially being a part of the MCU canon. This Punisher is way stronger than the Netflix series Punisher, and that dude was super strong too. I don't know. I like it. I like that whole thought. Could he be some sort of have some sort of mutated powers? I don't know. How would they hook that in? Like Kingpin's never been like the mutation or mutate type situation. He's always been you would look at his character the way that he's drawn. He looks fat as hell, but really all of that shit is muscle. So I don't know how they would do that, but if they could write it the right way.
In the comics, Wilson Fisk has never been confirmed to be a mutant or some other cosmically enhanced being at all. Like, bro is literally just 441 pounds of pure muscle with only 9 pounds of fat on his 450-pound ass self. And that was all the result of intense combat training, especially in the art of sumo wrestling. However, despite us having seen MCU Kingpin train his body in his own way, I personally am not convinced that this version of the character has not been enhanced in some fashion. Like, bro literally punched through a brick pillar during his fight with Daredevil later on in the episode. Like, I don't care how strong you are, nobody that hasn't been juiced up in some way is able to do something like that. And there's no precedent.
Hold on, MT. When he punched through the pillar, he did say ouch. So hold on now.
Of something like that in the MCU outside of Wilson Fisk himself. So I firmly believe that at some point in Kevin Feige's mutant saga, Wilson Fisk's mutated DNA will at least be discussed or hinted at. Like, I would truly love for the future 616 Professor Xavier to look into Wilson's biology at some point to either confirm or deny any influence of the X gene triggering at some point in his youth. But what do you guys think? I'm interested to hear whether or not you believe Fisk is a superhuman or just a peak human of pure muscle.
I believe he's a peak human of pure muscle. I've never seen anything that would like hint towards, and this is including in the Netflix series, I've never seen anything that would hint towards that Wilson Fisk, the Kingpin, is actually some enhanced individual. He's just strong than a bitch. I mean, that's just what it is, you know? I mean, if they want to say that he might have paid for a little, you know what I'm saying, wannabe version of the super soldier serum at some point during that 5-year blip, we might could say that, but honestly, I like the better explanation that he's just strong as hell,
like he is in the comics. Sound off in those comments below and let me know. And if you love superhumans, then I think you're going to love our fun superhero inspired merch over at
no, I don't get paid for that. Heavy spoilers, no, I don't get paid for that either.
To clean up his mess yet again, we transition to Vanessa's funeral scene, with everyone appropriately dressed in black except for Mayor Fisk himself, who chooses to continue sporting his traditional white suit that he's known for in the comics. He approaches Vanessa's all-white casket and places a red rose on it, with this combination of colors symbolically representing their union, as Vanessa herself mostly wore red, while Wilson mostly wears white. And we see
they killed Vanessa this episode. They killed they killed Wilson Fisk's wife, aka the MILF. They killed her. She died right on in her sleep. She was developing like a little series of like dementia. She was forgetting where she was at. That's how I knew that shard of crystal that went inside her brain, it messed her all the way up.
Such imagery, of course, reflected in Wilson's favorite Rabbit in a Snowstorm painting, which sports a splotch of red blood on it. And another piece of cinematography that I loved during the scene happens as Wilson walks to the doors right after this, as we see the chandelier on the ceiling almost form a halo over Fisk's head, a halo that he walks away from as he exits the building. And when I first saw that shot, I instantly viewed it as Wilson.
I instantly viewed it. I instantly viewed it as we've seen a kingpin in the MCU and in the Netflix series who's had everything. And you saw how vicious he was. It's a guy who's had everything. Now you're about to see a guy who has nothing. More than likely at the end of this season, he's not going to be the mayor anymore. Vanessa's dead. His good name will have been besmirched once again. You got to remember, he just got out of prison. Yeah, this shot right here of him walking out of the church, that's signifying that old goody two shoes shit that he was trying to pull, it ain't popping no more. He back to the old kingpin. And honestly, I'm here for it.
Fisk officially walking away from the false halo that he's displayed for the world and going full ruthless kingpin mode in his quest for vengeance, regardless of what anyone else thinks. And not even Wilson's mysterious CIA partner, Mr. Charles, is exempt from his violent rebirth, as we can see that Wilson has stolen all the weapons that he was trafficking for the CIA at Red Hook.
Who is the Mr. Charles character, bruh? Does anybody who's been watching Daredevil Born Again, who is this dude, man? Who is this guy, bro? Do you think Mr. Charles could be a code name for another character in the comics that's supposed to be on like the evil side or something like that? Or is he a character that might have just been made up for the show and he's just working for, you know what I'm saying, Valentina Allegra DeFontaine? There we go. That's her name. Name too fucking long.
Exempt from his violent rebirth, as we can see that Wilson has stolen all the weapons that he was trafficking for the CIA at Red Hook, completely ignoring Mr. Charles when he calls for an explanation, giving Mr. Charles no other choice but to go directly to New York Governor Marge McCaffrey to seek her help with ending Wilson's regime once and for all, something that she is.
So now everybody that was just smiling in the Kingpin's face, now everybody's trying to put together a plan to get him up out of there because they feel like he done went too goddamn far. Biggs, you gone too far. They feel like he done went too far. When you got folks plotting around you, that's how you had a Julius Caesar situation where you have 15 to 19 of your friends stabbing you up on March.
More than happy to do now that Vanessa, the only woman that she trusted to keep the mayor in line, is now gone. What's interesting about Mr. Charles' interaction with the governor is how they seem to already know each other from past dealings, which makes me wonder whether or not a previous alliance with a kingmaker like Mr. Charles resulted in her going from mayor of New York City to governor of the state of New York. I mean, when the governor first walks in to greet Mr. Charles, we see him drinking some of the Michter's 20-year whiskey that he bought for her, a bottle that typically costs between $1,200 to $5,000, depending on where you buy it from. And the governor, of course, pretty much immediately asks Mr. Charles what he wants from her, implying that she's already helped him and the CIA in the past. So I do wonder how exactly Marge McCaffrey has historically used her powers to help Mr. Charles, and how those decisions helped the CIA shape geopolitics in their favor. But it also sort of begs the question, who does Mr. Charles really work for? I mean,
Valentina Allegra DeFontaine is who Mr. Charles works for. If you've watched the Thunderbolts or if you watch Wakanda Forever, the lady who locked up Evan Ross at the end, if you've watched the Thunderbolts, she's the one who put the Thunderbolts, aka the New Avengers with the Z, she put them together, that evil lady. That is who he works for. No doubt about it. That's who he works for.
Yeah, he seems to work for the CIA over at Langley, but is that specifically where his loyalties lie? I mean, I only ask because of his role as a regime changer / coup facilitator, one that was hoping to ship the massive stash of weapons on the Northern Star over to the African nation of Guinea-Bissau in order to cause chaos over there. And while, yes, the United States government is no stranger to stirring the pot in other countries.
Excuse me. I'm gonna try and put it back on her.
Over there. And while, yes,
her right here, that is who Mr. Charles works for. She put together the Avengers, the New Avengers with a Z, and all that. That is who Mr. Charles works for. Is his name actually Mr. Charles? We don't know, but that is definitely 100% who he works for.
United States government is no stranger to stirring the pot in other countries. Causing global chaos is also the staple of one of the MCU's most secretive and nefarious organizations out there, Hydra, an organization that was exposed by Captain Steve Rogers in Captain America: The Winter Soldier. In that very same movie, the computer consciousness of Zola reveals to both Steve and Natasha that Hydra's main method of securing power over the countless decades of its existence is specifically through causing as much chaos as possible so that people around the world would be willing to give up their freedoms to governments or organizations in order to keep them safe. And to that end, they have historically used other regime manipulators like Ant-Man 1 villain Mitchell Carson to get it done, much like I brought up in a previous breakdown. And ever since the events of the first Ant-Man movie, Hydra has been working in the shadows because, that's their whole motto. If you circumcise one head, 2 more heads will grow in its place with extra foreskin, or something like that.
What?
Cut off one head, 2 more shall take its place. Hail Hydra. And nip the tip. Who's first?
So, if S.H.I.E.L.D. was a head of Hydra that got sliced off by Captain Steve Hercules Rogers, then it's only a matter of time before Hydra returns to the MCU through the infiltration of other influential organizations like the CIA, SWORD, or even Damage Control. So if that's actually the case with the CIA, I genuinely wonder whether or not Mr. Charles knows about Hydra's influence, or if he's just an unknowing pawn like hundreds of other S.H.I.E.L.D. agents were in the past. I don't know, just a thought. And speaking of Mr. Charles, outside of his work...
Nah, that's actually a pretty cool cool theory to have with the whole, could this link all the way back to Hydra? Because again, we don't know who the Mr. Charles character is. We think we know who he works for, but he could work for somebody else. It could be a twist. There still is that character that works out of Madripoor named the Power Broker. There's still that character. We still don't know who dude from Ant-Man 3, Sonny Birch. We don't know who he was working for. These are all character threads that are still left out there.
With smuggling weapons on behalf of the CIA, apparently the sketchy-ass Scooby-Doo character of a government agent is also very much interested in enhanced people. People like Daredevil and his old pal, Jessica Jones, who we see finally make her grand return to the MCU after 7 long years, to the great pleasure of actress Kristen.
Salute to Kristen Ritter for pulling back up, man. Jessica Jones is officially back in the MCU. I love her introduction here. She looks the exact same. It's been 10 years and she looks the exact same. No, I'm talking about she's back, y'all. Or did they say 7 years? I might be a little high. But anyways, but now she has a little girl and her little girl looks mixed. Now in the comic books, if you know what you know, who does she have that baby with?
Ritter, who has been campaigning hard for her character's resurgence. And during a later rooftop conversation that Jessica has with Matt, it's implied that Mr. Charles managed to convince Jessica Jones's big black booty call of a love interest, Luke Cage, to work alongside him in some way, while Jessica herself decided to give Chuck the old center finger. But what
So now that might imply that Luke Cage is in fact the father of her daughter, and he's in fact working with Mr. Charles. If y'all can remember the end of Luke Cage season 2, Luke had kind of turned into a villain. He was going to become like the godfather of Harlem. He was going to be over all the organized crime as long as it stayed out of certain parts of Harlem or whatever. So maybe he ended up getting into some real bad trouble to the point where he had to work for this dude in order to get his record completely wiped. I don't know, but that would just mean that Luke took all that character progression that he had in season 1 and season 2 of Luke Cage and totally messed it up by becoming like the Kingpin of Harlem. But it's going to be funny to see how they write him back into the show.
exactly does Mr. Charles and Contessa Val's CIA want with enhanced heroes like Luke and Jessica anyway? I mean, I could definitely see them wanting to use them as superhuman weapons like Val has done with the New Avengers, but at the same time, Val was sort of forced into doing so by the Thunderbolts at the end of their movie. So I'm not too sure if Val's exactly excited at the prospect of making another team of goody two-shoes superheroes that she can't directly control. I believe that it's far more likely that Contessa Val's ultimate goal is to continue her work on developing a brand brand new super soldier serum with her team of undercover nerds over at the Ox Group, a group that gets a tiny bit of a shout out later on in the episode. And to that end, I believe that they're actually most interested in getting them some of that sweet, sweet mutated DNA that is the source of Jessica, Luke, Matthew, and Iron Fist's incredible powers. But even more so than all of them, I think Mr. Charles is most interested in studying.
Hold on, are we now considering Daredevil as like a mutate? He had a freak accident and some toxins got in his eye, completely blinded him, but it enhanced the rest of his senses. So I'm wondering, are we considering him a mutant now or mutate? I don't know. It's crazy.
The blood of Jessica and Luke's child, Danielle Cage, who we see abandoning her boring old toys for the fun new beeping toy from the Grenade Fairy. I love the Grenade Fairy. Fear my whimsy! Because ever since Danielle Cage was delivered by Dr. Stephen Strange himself in the pages of issue 13 of The Pulse from 2006, the eyes of so many people on Earth 616 have been trained on this little girl. I mean, an absolutely massive crowd of news reporters literally swarmed the outside of Dr. Strange's sanctum while Jessica Jones was giving birth, just so they could get a picture of the baby. However, it would be 12 years later in issues 1 to 4 of 2018's The Hunt for Wolverine Adamantium Agenda that we would learn how Danielle Cage's DNA was secretly stolen by the mad geneticist and notorious X-Men villain, Mr. Sinister.
Hold on. And that's not to say that that's still not what's going to happen leading into the mutant saga.
Learn how Danielle Cage's DNA was secretly stolen by the mad geneticist and notorious X-Men villain, Mr. Sinister, before one of Mr. Sinister's former employees named Declan Fay would steal Danny's DNA from Mr. Sinister to sell that DNA on the black market. Mr. Sinister has historically been very interested in the blood of people born from two superhuman parents, much like he was with the offspring of Scott Summers and Jean Grey in the comics, a plot that was centric to the first season of Marvel's recent X-Men 97 series on Disney+. And while there has been rumors of Mr. Sinister's upcoming influence in the mutant saga to come, I think that there is a chance that Marvel could be paving the way for Mr. Sinister's eventual appearance by establishing how hungry entities in the MCU are to study and unlock the potential of superpowered DNA, like an offspring like Danielle Cage. And the Secret Invasion TV series very much showed just how hungry humanity is by revealing how Nick Fury ordered a team of Skrulls to gather all the superpowered DNA from the scene of the big Endgame battle in order to hide all that.
We don't talk about this show. It doesn't exist to me. As a matter of fact, when they soft reboot the universe, that can be one of the first stories that they redo again.
Dangerous genetic potential from the rest of the world. And we also cannot forget how the She-Hulk series showed how far some entities like Todd Phelps' Intelligentsia were willing to go to harvest the potential of She-Hulk's DNA for their own gain. So I can very much see Danielle Cage's narrative evolving to be an extension of those DNA hunting narratives like Secret Invasion and She-Hulk. But another upcoming show that is very likely to show the world's interest in the DNA of superhuman offspring is, of course, Vision Quest, starring the only Avenger whiter than Steve Rogers, White Vision, because after White Vision died, SWORD decided to smear Vision's body in mayonnaise for some reason. Because whether it be John Walker or Sentry, the government was trying to make sure they got their superpowered white man by any means necessary. But Vision Quest is of course set to feature the grand return of Tommy Maximoff, after his resurrection into the dying body of Tommy Shepard was teased during the events of Agatha All Along. And the reason why I believe this is because when we are first introduced to a teenage Tommy Shepard in the pages of Young Avengers number 10 from 2006, the Young Avengers break Tommy out of a high-security government prison for superhumans, one that subjected Tommy to endless experiments while simultaneously studying his DNA with the...
This could be that same superhuman prison that we saw at the end of Wonder Man, if y'all actually took the time to watch that show. A lot of people might not have watched it, but Wonder Man was actually an alright show. You should give it a chance. Superhuman prison for mutants and enhanced individuals that the government can't control. Tommy Shepard might be in that prison right now as we speak.
hopes of eventually turning Tommy himself into a living weapon. That being said, with Tommy Maximoff being the child of both Wanda and Vision, I can see the CIA, Val's Ox Group, and even Damage Control being involved in sketchy experiments on Tommy, all in an effort to create the perfect mutated super soldier for the United States, a fitting narrative for the start of the mutant saga. But outside of Danny Cage and Tommy Maximoff, other new characters that could potentially be targeted by these sketchy organizations like the CIA for their genetic potential are, of course, Scar, the son of the Incredible Hulk, and an enhanced alien woman named Kyera, as well as Franklin Richards of the Fantastic Four, whose genetic potential was being marveled at by Robert Downey Jr.'s Dr. Doom at the very end of Fantastic Four.
And Franklin Richards in the comic books is a mutant.
Or first steps. But at any rate, I personally would not be surprised if getting at Danny Cage's blood is the true goal of all of these agents, as there are multiple realities in the Marvel Comics where Danny Cage has the superpowers of both of her parents, Jessica's super strength as well as her father's superhuman durability. And in many of those realities, she also eventually inherits the mantle of Captain America. So I very much expect for her to inherit the shield sometime after Sam Wilson. I mean, it'll probably be like a decade later, but eventually. And there's also a timeline where Danielle Cage becomes worthy of wielding Mjolnir, becoming the Thor of the Old Man Logan universe, which is super cool. So there are all sorts of exciting possibilities for this brand new MCU character, and she is for sure going to be centric to the mutant saga to come.
I would agree. This was good. This was good writing. Okay, it's looking like Marvel is trying to get back to that old frame of write everything that can stand alone, but at the same time, it still connects.
Feel like she'll end up being confirmed as a mutant outright, even though I don't believe that she has been confirmed to be a mutant in the comics. In the actual comics, Danielle is actually named after Luke Cage's best friend, Danny Rand, aka the Immortal Iron Fist. So I'm willing to guess that this is also the case in the MCU, as I'm sure both Luke Cage and Danny Rand have only gotten tighter since we last saw them together. But before Danny's playtime with a grenade could come to an explosive end, Mama Jones would shove her purple socks into the collective asses of all of the agents before yoinking the grenade out of a curious Danny's hands, with a few notes of Netflix's Jessica Jones theme music playing in the background as she does. Purple is of course the color most associated with Jessica Jones and her series, much like how red is for Daredevil, yellow is for Luke Cage, and green is for Iron Fist. And
Facts. I always loved how they broke that down during the Netflix series.
big reason for Jessica Jones's purple theme is due to her comic book counterpart's past as a superhero named Jewel, who used to rock a purple wig to match the purple jewel on her hip of her former costume. And a lot of you may remember how the 5th episode of Netflix Jessica Jones Season 1 had a nice little nod to comic book Jessica's former costume.
This is it. This is the one.
Tell me you're kidding.
Superheroes wear costumes.
The only place anyone is wearing that is trick-or-treating or as part of some kinky role-playing scenario.
Well,
Danny Cage herself inherits this purple color theme in her own clothing in the comics, often seen wearing purple shirts and whatnot. Here in this episode, we see Danny wearing purple fairy wings while also playing with a number of purple-themed toys as well. But anyways, as a result of this surprise raid, Jessica shoots Karen a text for Matt to meet up with her on the roof of a Storage Plus building. And a text
All right, let's talk about Karen real quick. I feel like Karen is about to cheat on Daredevil with the Punisher once he turns back up, because she has the same type of ideologies like what the Punisher has. Sometimes there are villains that are so bad they need to go. I believe that too. There are some villains that are so bad there is no locking you up so you can break out and do some worse shit. There are certain villains that the Joker, he needs to go, he need to go. Yet Batman would get him locked up in Arkham Asylum all the time and let him go. Karen is saying the same thing about all the suspects that they keep rounding up. She was like, you remember that one time? She asked Matt, she said, you remember that one time when you told me you were on your way to go kill the Kingpin and I stopped you from doing it? She said, what if I was wrong? So now she's getting that killer instinct. Sometimes people are so evil that they need to go.
that actually shows up just in time for Matt, as an enraged Karen gives Matt an earful about how they should not be helping Bullseye heal from his gunshot wounds after he eliminated Foggy Nelson in cold blood. She even references Father Lantom's death in episode 10 of Daredevil season 3 and expresses regret for convincing Matt to not murder Fisk in retaliation. And my god, does Deborah Ann Wall put in an incredible performance in this episode, man. You can truly see how much.
Salute to Deborah Ann Wall. I met her in passing at the last Comic-Con last year. Dope, good spirit. She's a great actress, man. And I love her as Karen Page. But, I know her as Jessica from True Blood.
Her anger at Bullseye for what he's done is pushing her to embrace her own inner dark side. And the fact that she was 100% going to blast that man out of the 616 continuity entirely if Matt did not stop her in time is absolutely insane. And yet another sign of Karen's descent into becoming more and more like her buddy, Frank Castle. And she even tells Matt that he needs to grow up and accept that in order to make real change, some people have to be put down. An argument that Frank Castle himself had with Daredevil in Netflix Daredevil season 2 when he had Daredevil tied up on a roof. And I really do feel like by the end of the season, Matt and Karen will no longer be together, and that Karen will end up on her own path. A
path that's going to lead her to getting her buns cracked by the Punisher.
That might just briefly lead her into the arms of the Punisher himself, which like I theorized in a previous video. They were definitely showing signs of flirtation in season 1 of Born Again, so I feel like it's only a matter of time until Marvel pulls and develops that particular narrative thread. But yeah, after Matt leaves Karen alone with Bullseye and a loaded gun, the time shifts to 2:15 p.m. when he meets up with Jessica on the roof near Kingpin's new weapon smuggling safe house. And during their conversation, Daredevil senses that Jessica's brush with the government gunman caused her to get injured and fatigued. A new change in Jessica Jones's power set that seems to have been triggered by the birth of Danielle Cage, likely alluding towards Danielle having potentially absorbed a small bit of her mother's power set into her own biology. But despite this minor setback, Jessica is ready to do battle with some baddies with her blind buddy Matt, and the two of them get to work kicking all sorts of AVTF ass. And
bruh, this fight scene right here was crazy. Definitely salute to whoever put this one together. It reminded me a whole lot of how they was getting down on the Netflix series.
During this incredible team-up sequence, we get a glimpse of what's in some of these boxes of weapons. When Jessica goes to rip the top of a container to protect herself from gunfire, we can see a gray box behind that container with some Russian writing on it. Writing that points to that gray container holding volume detonating munitions, or most commonly known as thermobaric munitions. These type of weapons work by first spraying a cloud of flammable mist or powder into the air, then igniting it. This creates a powerful, long-lasting pressure wave and intense heat that sucks oxygen out of the surrounding area, making them super deadly in confined spaces like buildings, tunnels, and bunkers, while also making them far more destructive than regular explosives of the same size. And as one AVTF agent is firing at a shielded Jessica, we can see the word Raketenwerfer on a box to the right of the frame, with that word being the German word for rocket launcher. And of course, much like we saw in the trailers for Born Again Season 2, a gray box with the Ox Group logo can be seen to the left of the screen when Jessica bonks an agent.
Y'all know who that group belongs to. That's old girl that's the head of the CIA. Valentina Allegra DeFontaine, whatever her name is, man.
With her makeshift shield. This box is the same type of box with the same type of number design that were scattered throughout the Ox Group's secret vault in Utah that Val tried to lure the Thunderbolt into to die. And since this Ox Group weaponry is amongst all of these weapons smuggled from Europe, then it's likely that Ox Group also deals weapons to other nations outside of the United States on the side. But anyways, after additional agents slowly...
So she's crooked. That's crazy. So Val is crooked. She double dipping on both sides. Okay. They're going to end up taking her down soon.
Approach Jess with heavy gunfire, we can see a gray box on the side that says the words munition subcaliberig, which is German for subcaliber munitions.
Which of course in German means a whale's vagina.
But yeah, the two defenders would go on to blow up the Kingpin's weapon storehouse before Matt comes back to the Punisher's safe house just in time to stop Karen from turning Benjamin's head into a donut. This, of course,
man, at first when I was watching that whole little part, I didn't think she was going to do anything. Then I forgot who I was talking about. This is Karen Page, one of the most deadliest characters with a handgun in the MCU. She was about to blow goddamn Bullseye's head smooth off of his shoulders, and then was gonna tell Matt about it later. Like, hey, I did it. Dumb did it. It just happened. You know what I'm saying? But Daredevil got there in time to save this man once again. Sometimes being self-righteous will get you hurt, though, man.
Causes Karen to crash the fuck out even more, telling Matt that he always prioritizes his enemies over the people that love him, which is kind of true, but very much unfair. Shifting things to the reception of Vanessa's funeral proceedings, Governor McCaffrey begins suggesting to Sheila that she could become the next mayor of New York City with her help, alluding to her plans to kick Kingpin off of his throne. Meanwhile, Buck Cash Money Cashman pulls Daniel Blake aside and warns him that his relationship with BB Yorick may be compromising the Fisk administration. And in order to see whether or not BB is trustworthy, Buck recommends that Daniel use the old barium meal test, a deliberate disinformation technique that intelligence agencies use to feed a suspected mole or double agent a unique piece of false information, in the hopes that the mole will expose themselves after divulging this fake information to the enemy. It's named after the real-life medical barium meal test, which is when patients swallow a thick, chalky drink containing barium that coats the inside of the throat, stomach, and intestines so doctors can clearly see any problems like ulcers or blockages during x-ray exams. In America, we call this particular spy technique a canary trap instead, and Daniel would set the trap for BB when he tells her the lie that Fisk is not aiming to go for a second term as mayor. And of course, elsewhere at the function, a tearful Heather Glenn makes her way to Vanessa's former bedroom, deciding to steal one of Vanessa's earrings for herself because rent is due and living in New York ain't cheap. I'm just kidding. She just wants a little something to remember Vanessa by. And after this, we see her approach Vanessa's mirror as the camera tilts and whispering voices get progressively louder.
Okay. Oh, girl right here. I don't know if anybody been watching or keeping up with this, but this one, she's something else. She like halfway dangerous, halfway freaky. Like, bruh, I don't know. Like, if she's gonna become the new Muse, just go ahead and let it happen. But this 90s Glenn Close shit she pulling, bruh, it's weird.
In her head. And while these whispers are likely just showing us Heather's further descent into madness, we can't ignore the possibility that these whispers could be the doing of Heather Glenn's attacker Muse from beyond the grate. I know, it sounds insane, but Muse did something similar to this all the way from hell in the pages of the 2025 series Daredevil Unleash Hell Red Band with a woman by the name of Morgan Whittier, with Muse connecting with Morgan's soul to mold her physical form into the new female Muse. And I'm not saying that this is exactly what's happening to Heather here, but given that particular precedent and these strange whispers, we cannot ignore that particular possibility. But yeah, Heather would soon be joined by Buck Cashman, who immediately senses that something is disturbing Heather outside of Vanessa's own death, before learning how deeply Heather's own experience with enhanced masked psychos has left her scarred and traumatized. And in order to help her release some of her frustration, Buck encourages her to violently reenact what happened to her using his own neck. And much like with Deborah Ann Wall, I have got to give Margarita Levieva her props on this episode, man. Like, holy shit, can that woman act? But what's not so great about this moment is how Buck is actively encouraging Heather to give in to her inner rage in order for her to overcome her trauma. But anybody with media literacy that has seen a Star Wars...
Nah, that wasn't it. That wasn't it. Buck was getting turned on by that lady choking him out, man. I seen it in his eyes. I was like, that boy kinky. There ain't no way. That woman having homicidal thoughts, choking you out like she choking you full strength. And you turned on versus telling somebody you need to induct this girl into some sort of psych ward, man.
Knows that giving into the dark side is a bad idea. And Margarita knows all about the dark side, as she starred as a dark side witch in the Acolyte TV series not too long ago. She was great in that too. But given this Daredevil series' overall theme of rebirth, it seems like Heather herself is due for a bit of a violent rebirth in her own right, much like Karen Page is. But anyways, time passes and BB travels with Daniel to his mom's house to celebrate his birthday with him. And outside the house, we can see that his mom probably displays a Fisk campaign sign, a sign clearly modeled after Donald Trump's own real-life campaign signs. Another way that the show alludes to how Fisk is meant to be a commentary on America's president, even if the showrunner publicly insists that it isn't supposed to be just about him. And while on a trip to the bathroom, BB takes a detour into Daniel's bedroom, where we can see posters repping his love for sneakers, as well as New York sports teams like the New York Yankees, Jets, and Knicks. And we can also see Daniel's admiration for mobsters through this Public Enemies poster, featuring the faces of Al Scarface Capone, Bugsy Siegel, Pretty Boy Floyd, Frank Costello, the original Machine Gun Kelly, John Dillinger, Babyface Nelson, and Lucky Luciano. And next to that poster is a poster for the 2001 stoner comedy How High, featuring rappers Method Man and Redman. But it would be after seeing a picture of Daniel with his father that BB decides to not text that false scoop that Daniel fed to her. However, BB would still be confronted by Daniel after he finds
that false scoop would have got her killed anyway. So that might have been good instincts and good writing right there for her not to have sent that message.
The same SD card that was handed off to her the night of the big fight, which is one element of the show that I find absolutely ridiculous. Like, are you kidding me, BB? You're really just going to keep this piece of incriminating evidence in your jacket pocket at all times? Like, why didn't you just download the files and then wipe the card, you big dummy? But anyways, meanwhile, things get messy outside of City Hall, where a vigil for Vanessa Fisk turns into a resistance protest. And as Kingpin stares out the window at all the angry people, Buck informs him that the governor is withdrawing her support. Just as Karen and the gang light a projection featuring a compilation of all the Red Hook survivors telling their stories of mistreatment under Fisk. And I
told y'all are dealing with, at first, the Netflix series, a Kingpin that had everything. You saw how vicious he was to get everything that he wanted. Now you're going to see a Kingpin that has lost everything. How vicious do you think he'll become now to come up out of the, up out of the dungeon and get back on his feet?
Love how white and red light hits Kingpin right during this moment, as these two clashing colors seem to foreshadow the eventual showdown between the white Kingpin and the red Daredevil shortly after. And as Daredevil confronts Kingpin in front of his favorite painting, he shows that he's taken Karen's words to heart and
let me go back right here. I thought this shot right here was crazy when you see Daredevil's shadow kind of forecast over his face, because it's almost like they're one and the same. And this is that fight, like, you've always wondered, a conversation between Batman and the Joker, like, this is going to lead to one of us not being around. You know what I'm saying? I think this was that type of conversation that they were having. Like, we got to get this done. Either you not walking away from this, I'm not walking away from this, but this has to end. So they actually go ahead and they go 1v1. And it's a good fight as usual. Every time Daredevil and Kingpin 1v1, it's always a great fight.
Of his favorite painting, he shows that he's taken Karen's words to heart and offers to end their toxic rivalry once and for all by suggesting that they both leave New York City forever. But since Big Willie No Wife ain't willing to do that, the two of them start punching each other, a fight that eventually leads to Kingpin ruining his favorite Rabbit in a Snowstorm painting by throwing a blind man into it in a fit of rage. He would then proceed to punch Matt in the face, causing a bit of Matt's blood to splatter on that painting, joining Wilson's blood from the time that Daredevil beat Kingpin up in Netflix Daredevil Season 3. The two of them...
Okay, I remember that, and I was thinking to myself, was that Wilson's blood on the side over there? And it definitely was. So basically, I got it.
Them fight some more before Daredevil ends the fight with a knee to Willie's face. And meanwhile, outside of the protest, Buck gives the task force the green light to start firing at innocent protesters, with Powell immediately using the opportunity to eliminate Agent Saunders for giving Matt and Karen the key card that led to the escape of the Red Hook prisoners.
Oh man, my man gave him the Glock right to his neck, and then he did it in front of another cop. Another dude that was on the anti-vigilante task force, dude said, "Goddamn vigilantes." He looked at him like, "What you mean, goddamn vigilantes?" He said, "Motherfucker, that was you. You just killed them." So, yeah, this got crazy. They started shooting people. Within all the melee, here come Karen being somewhere she's not supposed to be.
Before disposing of him, Powell calls Saunders a Fredo, a reference to the traitorous Fredo Corleone from the Godfather films. And as Karen Page and Angela Del Toro walked amongst the crowd of protesters, you can see that Angela is wearing a white tiger-themed bandana, while Karen is wearing a red bandana to represent Daredevil. However, the way that Karen wears that bandana is very reminiscent of Daredevil's former love interest Elektra, who also wore a red mouth covering in both the comics and Netflix Daredevil. However, as the chaos intensifies outside, Angela's homie would be brutally wounded by the task force before Powell discovers wanted fugitive Karen Page at gunpoint, alluding to Karen's capture by the task force.
And that is how that ended. Well, hold up.
Cannot wait to see how Daredevil reacts to this new development in the episode.
Yeah, and that's exactly how that situation ended. Karen got captured. She got her hands up looking stupid. When you're where you're not supposed to be, that's what happens when you're where you're not supposed to goddamn be. But salute, that was a great episode. You know what I'm saying? I loved all the fight scenes that happened in this episode. I have nothing bad to say about Daredevil Born Again Season 2. This show keeps getting better and better and better. But on to the next one. We got The Boys, Season 4. Season 5, Episode 4. It's the new episode. Hold on. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Tell me how y'all feeling about Daredevil as we move along to the newest episode of The Boys. When I tell y'all this episode was crazy, have we been keeping up with The Boys, y'all? I happen to think that show is pretty crazy. Let's see. Where do we want to go with this one? Okay, so I guess we can go right here and give a ending to, you know what I'm saying, the meaning of it all. This is by way of film recaps. All right. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to them as well. Oh, excuse me. There we go. And let's get into it. Go!
The episode opens with Firecracker speaking with Homelander, when he suddenly mentions that he can sense Soldier Boy's presence all over her. Firecracker quickly brushes it off, claiming she's only been around him recently. Homelander then
Yeah, nah. Your father cracked her buttons. Yeah, Soldier Boy definitely was all over her. And, you know, my wife was like, man, Soldier Boy and Homelander are one and the same. Father and son, both a couple of weirdos. I said, yeah, but I can hang with goddamn Soldier Boy. I was like, Homelander's like a weirdo. Like, he's like a scary weirdo. Like, you're afraid to crack a joke on him. He might kill you.
shares something strange. He says he's been visited by what he believes is an angel, who told him he's the chosen savior of the world. To him, this only confirms what he's always believed, that he's special. He goes on to tell Firecracker that she's always seen him this way too, and because of that, he's chosen her to help spread his message. So left with no other choice, she agrees. The scene then cuts to Ryan waking up, with Butcher watching over him. As Butcher tries to convince him to stay hidden for a while, Ryan ignores the advice and flies off. At the same time, the boys begin planning a mission to Fort Harmony, where they hope to locate and destroy V1. Huey explains that Homelander currently has control over Stan Edgar, and both sides are now in a race to secure the substance. V1 has become a key factor in the conflict. If Butcher's team gets it first, it could help save Annie, Kimiko, and even Butcher himself. But if Homelander
when you in a situation like dealing with somebody like Butcher, who's not worried about saving nobody, they worrying about burning everything down, you can't get anything accomplished.
reaches it first, he could become nearly unstoppable. Elsewhere, Starlight arrives at a quiet home where a man is clearing snow from his porch. It turns out to be her father, who is now a police officer and has built a whole new life. She reveals she's been searching for him for months, and this is their first meeting in over 20 years. Suddenly, it's also revealed that he now has a family, including a son named Mason, making him Starlight's younger brother. Meanwhile, Sister Sage meets with Soldier Boy and informs him that Homelander has already set out with Stan Edgar toward Fort Harmony to find any remaining V1. They believe securing it could allow Homelander to live indefinitely, possibly alongside his father. Back in the woods, Butcher and his team move cautiously through the area when Huey suddenly slips and discovers something horrifying. Bodies scattered everywhere, all killed in brutal fashion. At the same time, tension rises elsewhere as Black Noir confronts the Deep over a past betrayal. The Deep defends himself, saying it wasn't personal, it's just the nature of their line of work. As the boys reach a nearby facility, Huey briefly opens up about
I have no idea why the Deep and Black Noir were in this episode at all. They could have left them out.
Starlight leaving during their last mission, but the moment is cut short when they notice something deeply unsettling. Everything around them is dead, with no clear explanation. Back with Starlight, she's introduced to her stepmother, Caddy, and the two share an awkward but polite exchange. At VOD headquarters, Firecracker begins pitching Homelander's new image to the board. She explains the idea of presenting him as a messianic figure, a savior for the people. However, the executives aren't convinced, pointing out that this approach could clash with existing Christian beliefs. Firecracker argues they need to reshape the narrative around a more American kind of hero, but Ashley remains skeptical, warning that people may not accept Homelander being portrayed in such a way. Meanwhile, Homelander and Soldier Boy arrive at the same location and are met with the same disturbing sight: lifeless bodies everywhere. When Homelander questions about why he changed his mind in helping him find the V1, and also what happened to those dead, Soldier Boy dismisses it without much concern. Inside the facility, Butcher's team uncovers
Their whole little back and forth, Homelander and his father, Soldier Boy, that shit is like weird, man. That whole little back and forth between the two of them. It's weird. I'm sorry. It's like, I don't know. He likes him, but don't like him but don't. I don't know. I don't get it. And yeah.
About why he changed his mind in helping him find the V1, and also what happened to those dead, Soldier Boy dismisses it without much concern. Inside the facility, Butcher's team uncovers documents that might be useful, but tensions within the group begin to rise. Everyone seems unusually aggressive and on edge, until Frenchie points out that something isn't right. There's something in the air affecting them, and they need to stay focused before things spiral out of control. Back at Starlight's father's house, things feel a bit tense as Mason is seen blasting loud music, clearly going through something. Not long after, her dad sits down with her for a heartfelt conversation, as he tells her how proud he is to call her his daughter, and opens up about how he first met her mother. During this, he doesn't hold back, as he admits he never agreed with what her mom did, especially giving her Compound V as a child. He also takes responsibility for his past, apologizing for walking out on her life. Their moment gets interrupted again by Mason's music, so
Yeah, I ain't gonna lie. Her little brother was a little shit. I'm not gonna lie to you, man. The whole episode. And then he pulled the same move Buddy pulled off the original X-Men. When Iceman came to see his family, he went upstairs and called the police on Iceman, and Pyro had to turn up on the police because they shot Wolverine in the head. Some similar type shit almost went down.
Starlight decides to go talk to him directly. Meanwhile, back with the boys, Frenchie becomes even more certain that something in the air is affecting everyone. He explains that the environment is contaminated, causing extreme aggression, so much so that the animals and people in the area have likely turned on each other. The only reason he's unaffected is due to the substances he's experimented with over time.
Salute to Frenchie. Frenchie was really using his nerd brain on this one. He told them, yo, I've done a whole lot of heroin and this, that, and the third. He was like, so all this hatred, these spores that's in the air, whatever entity is around here, it's putting a lot of hatred in the air. And, you know, he said, I'm not affected because my DNA has basically been altered because I used to get high so much. I said, wow, okay. But everybody else, it brings out the most nasty parts of you. You say things that you normally would just keep to yourself about people, so much to the point where it causes rage to come out to where everybody wants to eventually kill each other.
Shortly after, they spot Homelander and Soldier Boy arriving at the location. Butcher immediately wants to confront them, but Frenchie stops him, warning that rushing in would be a mistake. Instead, they stay focused on finding V1, only to realize they're too late. Someone has already gotten there first. The scene then cuts to a police officer arriving at John's house after Mason reported Starlight. John tries to explain that she's his daughter, but the officer isn't interested in listening and pushes for her arrest. Just as things start to escalate, John manages to calm the situation before it gets out of hand.
Now,
Buddy, please,
I'm warning you.
I said walk away.
Bot's been making us do, pulling people out of their homes. You know it's wrong. She better be gone in an hour.
Back at the facility, Homelander and Soldier Boy unknowingly begin to feel the effects of the toxic air. At the same time, Butcher and his team are also starting to lose control, arguing over things that barely make sense. The tension reaches a breaking point when Butcher grabs Huey, and the situation nearly turns violent.
We don't have time for this. We need to find a way out.
You know, I used to say to these guys, don't give up on Butcher.
He can kill you.
Now, imagine you're in a situation where you end up saying the worst of worst things that you can't take back to your friend to the left and the right, and it's a virus in the air that's making you say these things, all for the virus to get cured, right? That's gotta be an awkward ride home. It's gotta be an awkward ride home.
Violent. Homelander and Soldier Boy aren't doing much better. As things spiral, Soldier Boy ends up locking Homelander inside a vault filled with enriched uranium, weakening him, and then heads off to destroy V1 himself.
Your ass.
With the toxin now fully affecting them, the boys scatter and try to regroup, but the aggression keeps getting worse. Butcher eventually finds Homelander trapped in the vault, weakened and struggling to break free. The two share a tense moment, with Butcher revealing his intention to take the V1 for himself.
You don't have it, do you?
Don't I? You can't intervene. Fucking drown. You're all fucking paste.
Elsewhere, chaos continues as the team turns on each other.
Yo, when I saw Huey shoot MM in the back, I said, oh, this is gone. You gone too far.
Until Frenchie suddenly runs into Soldier Boy, triggering a high-stakes chase. During the pursuit, they uncover the real source of the madness, a soup named Quinn, who's stuck against a wall. Soldier Boy recognizes him as a former test subject. Frenchie urges him to end Quinn's life to stop the chaos, but Soldier Boy initially refuses, wanting him to suffer instead. However, Frenchie manages to play on his emotions and convinces him to go through with it.
You were just a boy playing dress up. Should be you up there. Shut up. Coward. I said shut your fucking mouth!
I'm sorry.
Once Quinn is killed, the effect immediately fades, freeing everyone from the uncontrollable rage. The moment hits Soldier Boy hard, and he begins to feel the weight of what he's done. Not long after, the team regroups and heads out in their van. Back at the facility, Homelander finally manages to...
Yeah, nah, go back, because we're not going to act like that wasn't an awkward ride. I told y'all, that's an awkward ride home. Being in a situation where you've said every ugly and vile thing that you've ever thought about your friends, damn near killing each other, and then the virus wear off, and now y'all got to ride home together?
Homelander finally manages to escape the vault. Furious, he confronts his father, but instead of killing him, he holds back and walks away. Later, as things settle, Kimiko apologizes to Frenchie for everything she said while under the toxin's influence. Around the same time, Starlight reunites with Huey, and the two also make peace after their earlier fallout. Butcher, however, watches something far more unsettling unfold. Firecracker successfully pushes the narrative, and Homelander is publicly introduced as a savior figure, exactly as planned, which they call divine rebranding. The episode 4 then came to an end. Kindly subscribe for more recap next week. Thanks for watching and goodbye.
Salute to them for that one. How y'all feeling about the latest episode of The Boys? Now, I'm feeling like we're leaning more and more and more into that theory that I have that the boys are going to have to end up killing Butcher at some point. He's got those powers, and the first chance he get when he gets upset, his first initial move is just to use those powers to kill, even on his friends. And this isn't the first time he's done that to Huey. So I don't know, man. My early prediction is the boys are gonna have to take out Billy Butcher because he's gonna do too much. But y'all leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and tell me how y'all feeling about that one. But on to the next one. Invincible season 4, the finale. Hold on. Invincible season 4, the finale. How we feeling about this? Did anybody watch Invincible? Did anybody watch the finale? I want to see if my man Sammy J talking about it, man. Because they got a whole situation where it's going to lead and follow into new things that are going to happen in season 5. Okay, so this is by way of Looper, y'all. Let's check it out. Hold on. Yeah, this is by way of Looper. Season finale of, season 4 finale of Invincible. It was fire.
Invincible Season 4 ended on an explosive finale, but this story's far from over. Here's a breakdown of everything that happened and why it matters. Spoilers ahead for Season 4, and possibly beyond. Despite causing the Viltrumites to retreat from Telescria, Mark and the coalition of planets aren't as successful fighting them back on Viltrum. As the battle rages on, the coalition kills a few Viltrumites, but it's clear Thrag is far too powerful for any of them to take out. Thrag rips off one of Oliver's arms and severely beats both Nolan and Mark. Realizing that the only way to snag a W is to pull an Ender's Game, Nolan tells Space Racer to fire his Infinity Ray toward Viltrum itself. And then he, Mark, and Thaddeus fly as fast as they can directly behind the Ray's blast. The Ray moves through the planet, and with the extra power of the 3 Viltrumites, all of Viltrum gets destroyed. In a fit of anger, Thrag decapitates Thaddeus and nearly kills both Nolan and Mark. But he stops at the last moment, realizing that there are already too few Viltrumites left. So Thrag and his army retreat once more.
Yo, when I tell you he got Mark and Nolan the fuck out of there fast as hell, Thrag is something else. Look at how he got Mark and Nolan, man. That boy, I don't get how you name yourself Invincible, but you never are invincible. You stay getting your ass beat, man.
After recovering, Mark believes Thrag would have taken the Viltrumites to Earth for retribution. But when he gets back, everything seems fine. Just when Mark lets his guard down, he runs into Thrag in Earth's atmosphere. Thrag offers a proposal. Thrag wants the remaining Viltrumites to blend in with humans, breed, and regrow their numbers. In exchange, they'll leave Earth alone.
You do not have a choice, and yet you must still make one.
Mark refuses the deal initially, since it will mean a larger Viltrum army within a few generations. But if he refuses, the Viltrumites still have enough strength to kill billions immediately. With no other choice, Mark reluctantly accepts. Previous Invincible season finales have ended with massive fights. Season 2 involves a multiversal battle with Engstrom Levy across different realities, and Season 3 involves Mark, Oliver, and Eve fighting Conquest. But the Invincible Season 4 finale is much more muted. The big battle came in Episode 7, with Episode 8 tackling the aftermath and Mark's struggles to come to terms with everything that's happened. In previous season finales, Mark wins. Here, Thrag emerges victorious. However, the finale also comes with a mid-credit scene that could balance the scales. With Thaddeus dead, Alan becomes the leader of the coalition. His girlfriend, Telia, provides him with a video message recorded by Thaddeus.
Alan, I am dead.
Whereas Thaddeus previously said he would only use the Scourge virus as a last resort, it would appear that was deception on his part. He now wants Alan to use it to wipe out every last Viltrumite, which would include those fighting on behalf of the Coalition. Given the look on Alan's face, he seems appropriately horrified at the power that rests in his hands, and this virus may be a lot more dangerous than what we've seen in the comics. The final episode of Invincible Season 4 takes viewers up to roughly issue number 78 of the Invincible comics. in which Alan learns of the Scourge virus. However, there's an extra line in the Amazon Prime series that should give fans pause. Thaddeus' message to Alan is similar to what he says in the comics, except for one thing. While explaining that the virus is now guaranteed death for Viltrumites, he then says this:
"Because it may also strike down those with similar genetics. Mark's people, for instance."
While that line is absent from Invincible issue 78, Alan brings it up later in the comics run. He confirms that since Viltrumite and human DNA are so similar, it's possible the Scourge virus could also wipe out every human if it's released in Earth's atmosphere. And since all Viltrumites are presently on Earth, Alan has to decide whether it's worth it to sacrifice all of humanity to ensure universal peace by eliminating every last Viltrumite. Without getting into too many details that could spoil future Invincible seasons, it becomes a major...
Bruh, I'm not going to lie to you. Invincible keeps getting better and better and better and better. Like, I can't wait to see where this whole show goes next. And yes, every time it's about to come out, I rewatch everything so I can pick up exactly where we left off at. Another season banger.
point of contention between those who believe humans are a worthwhile sacrifice and those who think releasing the virus would make Alan just as bad as the Viltrumites. Invincible Season 4, Episode 3 ends with Eve looking at a positive pregnancy test. She doesn't tell Mark she's pregnant before he leaves to fight the Viltrumites. When he returns, he finds her having gained weight, and as the audience, we're led to believe that perhaps she's still pregnant or recently gave birth. But later in the finale, she reveals how she got an abortion while Mark was away. Both of these plot points come up in the comics, and in both cases, Mark's reaction to both are handled well. Despite Eve's trepidation of what Mark may think of her new look as a result of not using her powers as often, he fully accepts her, and is simply happy to see her again. Similarly, when Eve talks about her abortion, Mark apologizes for not being there for her. After Mark's truce with Thrag,
he was off fighting the war to save the goddamn universe, sweetheart. Goddamn, quit making everything about you.
The couple goes back to business as usual, but anyone who is familiar with the ending of the Invincible comics will know that the two have plenty of ups and downs to come. One of the highlights of Invincible Season 4 is when Debbie and Nolan see each other for the first time since he killed thousands of people at the end of Season 1. Sandra Oh gives an incredible voice performance, perfectly capturing Debbie's anger at her former partner.
Now get the f*** out of my house and never come back.
Pretty harsh. This is already a very different version of Debbie from the comics. Comic book Debbie actually blamed Mark for driving Nolan away after the two fought on Earth earlier in the series, but the TV show cut that part out. Another big change is that Debbie forgives Nolan after he returns to Earth following the Viltrumite War. In fact, she forgives him pretty quickly. As by Invincible issue 80, the two are back together. Well, kind of. Debbie says how the two of them are still sorting that out, but it's far more progress than where they are in the Amazon Prime series. In the Season 4 finale, Debbie reluctantly takes a trip with Nolan to Telescria to see Oliver. The two definitely aren't together in the show, but it's a long trip to Telescria. In the comics, Debbie and Nolan got pretty cozy on the spaceship, so they've clearly moved past their issues to a degree. It's hard to imagine the version of Debbie we've seen in Invincible Season 4 doing that. Debbie forgiving and reconciling with Nolan in the comics plays into themes of forgiveness and how anyone can be redeemed. But the series may go in a different direction, showing how someone can work hard to prove they've changed but still don't deserve total absolution. The third episode of Invincible Season 4 brings back the Flaxons from Season 1. You know, the green interdimensional aliens who keep trying to conquer Earth? They're even more powerful during their Season 4 appearance, and even Invincible and the Guardians of the Globe are barely able to hold their ground. Robot and Monster Girl go back to their homeworld to shut down...
Yeah, I want to know what's going on with this one. What's going to happen from here?
The transmitter that's stopping the Flaxons from aging in our world. But unfortunately, they get trapped on the other side when the portal closes. The Season 4 finale sees Cecil and his team try to create a portal to get them to come home. But instead, they just let in a big tentacle monster. Robot and Monster Girl still aren't there when Season 4 ends, but they'll likely be back for Season 5. The Invincible comics eventually show what Robot and Monster Girl were up to in the other dimension, but we won't get into potentially spoilery details. If you just keep in mind the vast difference in how time works between that dimension and ours, you know that they have plenty of time to get into adventures, and not always good ones. Invincible Season 4 ends with Mark in a precarious state, even before he makes a deal with Thrag. He repeatedly sees visions of Viltrumites destroying cities and killing his loved ones. We get a taste of this in Invincible issue 77, which contains full-page splashes of the death and destruction he imagines.
There's nothing he or anyone else can do to stop us.
However, not much time is spent on Mark's PTSD, as he pretty much immediately goes into making the deal with Thrag. The show allows Mark to dwell on his emotions.
Man, it make it look like Mark is super duper scared of Thrag, but when you see the way that Thrag get down, it almost reminds you of when Thanos put hands on the Hulk, how he just turned into a straight hoe cake after that. Yeah, it was a lot like that.
He even asked Cecil to see a therapist. This all seems part of Invincible creator Robert Kirkman's plan to keep audiences on the edge of their seat, even if they read the comics. Kirkman explained to Collider what he hoped to achieve with Season 4, saying, "I think the roller coaster is a good word for it because it is all about keeping you off balance and hitting you with things when you least expect it. And that's the thing that we're always trying to do in the writer's room. We want things to come out of left field and take you by surprise." Season 4 has plenty of those moments and ample close calls. Invincible himself has all his guts ripped out by Conquest and then nearly has his eyes caved in by Thrag. He's been—
Bro, how are you invincible? Look, sorry, no. How are you invincible? And every time I turn around, you end up like this. Any Invincible fans out there that have read the comics and all of that, or that, you know what I'm saying, that know the lore of Invincible, why is his name Invincible and he always ends up like this? How? You're not invincible. Boy, you're getting your eyes poked out. There is a man holding your head like a baby, giving you the, what's the matter, baby? The what's the matter, baby? Palming your head, bro. You're not invincible. He might need to pick another name for real.
By Thrag. He's been put through the ringer multiple times this season, and then he gets hit with an emotional blow after feeling like he abandoned Eve when she needed him the most. Invincible has gotten a lot better about re-releasing seasons annually after the 2-year gap between Season 1 and Season 2, so we should hopefully see Invincible Season 5 sometime in 2027. Fans should understandably expect to see more of Thrag, but there are other storylines that happen immediately after Thrag's invasion of Earth. So if you want to avoid any possible—
Okay, so basically, because they've introduced the multiverse in this version of the Invincible comics, they can pick from the comics and then put their own little twist on it for the Amazon Prime series. So that's multiple series that they can put out, as long as they don't stop with good animation and don't stop with good stories.
Spoilers for Season 5 and beyond, you might want to
Stop!
watching the video here. Shortly after Mark's return to Earth, we get the return of Dinosaurus. He wasn't particularly difficult for Mark to handle in his Season 4 appearance, but he has a far juicier role to come. He sets up a bunch of explosives around Las Vegas and wipes out the city. A sequence of events which also puts Invincible back into the crosshairs of Powerplex. Aaron Paul voiced Powerplex previously, but he announced that even though he was invited back, he decided to leave Invincible due to the toll the character was taking on his mental health.
Wow.
It's over. I failed.
If the show brings Powerplex back, fans should expect him to have a slightly different voice. Elsewhere, Alan prepares to release the Scourge virus on Earth, and in the scuffle, Mark gets exposed to it. As a result, Bulletproof temporarily becomes invincible for a while. Given what Kirkman has said about taking fans by surprise, there's no way to tell how all of those storylines will be adapted to the small screen, if at all. So, all you can really do is sit back and enjoy the roller coaster.
Oh man, that all sounds like that's gonna be crazy fire. Thank you for everybody that pulled up to the sesh. I'm definitely fried out and laid to the side, man. It's time to get up out of here. Thank y'all for everyone that pulled up. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Don't forget, keep smoking, y'all. It's the Offenders Initiative podcast, and we out.